Hey there, Danavan Hilton, community business leader, enjoying the day. Wanted to connect with you real quick to challenge you to answer this question. Please leave a comment below. But the bottom line is, from your perspective, especially to young adults, what do you feel is the disconnect between young adults and the mature generation, as well as young adults and the political process? Personally, as I have dabbled into the political process now for about 4 years strong, I was never really a believer of it growing up, didn't really follow it, and now serve as I'm a former regional vice chair of the Davidson County Democratic Party, where my role was to assist the chairperson with getting the job done within the county. The job done being consisting of overseeing 7 council districts and the committee men and women within those districts. So I oversaw 14 men and women that oversaw their respective council districts. And within the region, my job was to ensure that we were raising funds, hosting community engagement events to introduce the Democratic Party, supporting the elected officials from the local to the federal level, as well as just ultimately advocating the Democratic Party. Now, keep in mind, and you're going to see, I also have connections and relationships on the Republican side. And so I try my best to make sure that I am introducing and bringing information to both sides, because ultimately, with all due respect, I joined the Democratic Party to become more involved in the political process. I ran for city council in 2015 with the mindset of being an independent representative, even though in Nashville, it's at the local level, it's bipartisan, meaning there is no Democrat or Republican that you can actually be when you run. But ultimately, I wasn't leaning toward the left or to the right. My role was to get involved, get engaged, and once I didn't win the race for council, obviously, I was very fortunate to connect with the current council member for my district, who said, Danavan, hey, you want to learn the political process, here's how you can do it. Become a committee member and a committeeman for the Democratic Party, as well as, and at that time I did, and was pretty much served as bumped up to serve as the regional vice chair. So I say all that to say that's my background in the political process. I had a chance to serve as the director of admissions for a career college, director of marketing and community engagement for a staffing company and here in Nashville. And I learned in both of those roles that the political process is a huge agenda or item of concern for those businesses. Businesses being career college, and I learned that the career college sector was affected by the political process because if you're not aware, America was over $1 trillion in debt, and government agencies, representatives felt that the career college played a role in that through the loan process. And so I had a chance to experience firsthand, as I'm just thinking business and corporate mind and doing my job, firsthand how, and I was in a director's position, my job didn't just consist of doing my day-to-day duties. It also consisted of making sure I stay up to date with the trends of the political process. And at the time, the career college sector was working to stay in business because the government agencies were working to shut the career colleges down based upon the student loans. So that was my first chance to really get an overstanding of how the political process played a role with the private sector. Second opportunity, as I was a director of marketing for a staffing company, which job was to connect local residents to local employment opportunities, and having a chance to work with over 200 community groups, workforce development organizations, nonprofit agencies, government agencies, to ensure that I was connected to the recruiting sources that had the local residents that needed employment, and also working with the employers. I realized on both sides how the political process played a role in employment. And so that's when I realized, wow, so the private sector is not just focused on money. The private sector must also stay up to date with the trends of the political process to ensure that their business can survive. And so getting to know that, playing in the political process, now running my own business where I get a chance to recruit and retain employees as well as
Employers?
No. Recruit and retain, employees as well as customers for employers, workforce development organizations, business chambers, nonprofit and government agencies, I'm realizing, and that's how I got more involved in the political process at just over 30 years old, why it's so important for young adults on the private sector side to stay engaged in the political process. So now you're going to see me, you see me, and I hope you check out my work. I'm connected to elected officials at the local to the federal level. I'm connected with employers, with community groups. And it's a tricky business for me because as an independent business owner and community residents being so concerned with what's going on in their community, sometimes people feel like I'm in cahoots with this group or that group. No, my job is to bridge gaps. My job is to serve as a communicator. And so I have to, not only for my personal well-being, but also for my business and my community to stay engaged. And I would love to have community residents get on that same mind frame. You can't think that everybody's against you. You have to know that your life and your district is in your hands, and that requires you to stay engaged. Now, if we can't manage and maintain relationships, then everything that we do in the community is going to look like somebody's out to get us. And it may be the case, it may not be the case, but you have to be a consultant and an advocate just as much as you are a protester, if you will. Bad choice of words, and where am I going with this? I want to know from you, from young adults like me. Again, I was not a believer of the political process. I'm still hesitant about the political process as I get behind the scene. Campaign season is cutthroat. Everybody's best friends between campaign season, but as soon as campaign season comes around, everybody's talking about each other like a dog, and with all due respect. And how are we going to move together as a community if the individuals running against each other are being negative? Because at the end of the day, only one person is going to serve on that seat. So now all of a sudden, all the individuals that ran that may have the resources to make things happen, because of the disconnect during campaign season, I don't even see them working together once the person is elected to be able to get things done. So as a young adult, I become dissatisfied. I'm like, man, this is a joke. I'm not gonna worry about it. You know, for example, with all due respect, young adults, millennials and above are like, well, what's the point of going to college? You know, young adults and millennials have a different perspective now because they're looking at results, current results and results of the past. So now all of a sudden, the price of tuition for college continues to rise, but then all of a sudden there's no guarantee that you're able to get not only a job, but a career that's gonna lead you to the middle class, sorry. And so now young millennials and generations under me are saying, you know what, I don't even want to go to college. I'm just going to go out here and do my own thing and become an entrepreneur. And so my point is, if you're an institution or you're a leader of these institutions, you have to become connected now with what's going on with your new workforce, what's going on with your new constituents, because now it's to a point where the current constituents, to include your workforce, are like, I don't even care anymore. And I don't blame them based upon what's going on. So my question to you is, do you care about the political process? And if you don't, why? There's no right or wrong answer. Let's just throw it out there, because hopefully this opportunity will be, this conversation will give an opportunity for community leaders, business leaders, political leaders to reevaluate what they're focused on, you know, and take the me out of the team and the I out of team and start looking at a systematic thinking perspective. If you don't know what systematic thinking is, look it up. But ultimately, it's processes, several processes that come together to make the whole work. It's not just this particular thing that's the fault that makes all these things to make the system not work. There's little bits within the system that do not work, which causes the overall system to not work. That's called systematic thinking. And so, again, that takes too much of your time. I'm asking you, leave a comment. If you want to say the political process is full of S, put that down there. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's get this out here. But my point is, to young adults, you have to understand, as community residents, that the political process is real enough for the private sector to continuously stay engaged. I noticed the private sector, business owners and top managers are always connecting to political leaders, elected officials, to ensure that their voice is heard, to ensure that their industry, that they're able to survive in their industry. Because no matter how you look at it, the private sector ultimately provides jobs. And so they want to make a profit, but also they want to make sure they're able to stay in business, because if their business stays alive, then they're providing jobs. So this is bigger than just the private sector looking out for themselves, even though they are. But if you feel like the political process is worthless, understand the private sector is paying big money to make sure that these elected officials hear them. And so my point is, as a community resident, you may feel like, well, I don't have a say in this, and you know, I don't have any money. That's the case, and that's fine. But ultimately understand that what happens today is going to affect you 5 years from now. And where you are today is not where you're going to be 5 years from now. And so you may think that you're the hottest thing since sliced bread, you're looking good and this and that, but everybody's maturing. And 5 years from now, there's going to be the next generation. And then you're going to look up and realize that you had your time, and now that you're past your time, you didn't position yourself for success based upon you not being engaged in the political process. And I'm telling you this is facts because the private sector does it all day, every day. So if you're a community resident, you have to do it all day, every day. There's some truth in that because the private sector wouldn't be doing it, and they're the ones making the money. They should be the first ones sitting back and relaxing. But they're like, no, we got to stay focused at all times. So my question is, are you staying focused? Because what you're doing affects you 5 years from now. Are you staying up to date with your do you even know who your elected officials are? And my point to all this is, again, comment why you feel the political process is important or why you don't feel the political process is not important, so that we can ensure that we can move forward on the same page. I do feel that if you feel like the system is not for you, I feel that, and like I learned in corporate America, in what they call SOPs, the standard operating procedure, a great friend, a great mentor, and my former supervisor said, Danavan, if the standard operating procedure has been created by someone that gets paid to actually write this stuff down, and that's their job, to make sure that the system is running smooth, and you don't follow that system, then you're not doing the writer justice, because if the system is wrong, the only way to know for sure from the writer and the company's perspective is to follow the procedure to a T, and it shows it doesn't work. But if you don't want to follow it and do your own thing, then they're going to say, well, it's your fault. So if you feel the system doesn't work, follow the process. Show it doesn't work so that we can recreate a new process. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but that's the thinking of the private sector, and you want to hold yourself blameless. So if you feel like, okay, this is what the system's asking me to do, register to vote. Go vote. Not only vote, but actually do town hall meetings yourself. Get people up and take them to the voting booths. Do all those things. Go to the meetings and talk to your council members. Hold them accountable. Do all those things to show if you feel the system is not working, doesn't work. Because once you hold yourself blameless and say, I did all that I was supposed to do, and we're still here, then we can go back to the drawing board and, make those changes. That's, I feel, how some of the leaders in the community in the public and private sector think. They're going to say, well, it's not my fault, the people aren't doing it. So do it real quick. I'm not going to hold you, but a lot of countries in the world don't even have a democracy or some form of democracy. We do have amendments. Some people will say, well, the amendments are rigged. The Constitution is rigged. I got that and I get you. But most countries are still in a dictatorship. You know what I mean? We can at least run around and pretend like we have rights, if nothing else, if you feel like we really don't. But at the same time, most countries in the world don't even have this. So we're very fortunate to be here, at least because we have some type of system where we have civil society going on to some degree. There's some places where literally where you're born, they put the law in their own hands. I'm gonna put the law in your own hands. So there's some things we can be fortunate for. I believe a great philosopher said, you live in a great environment when you have time to sit back and become a philosopher and to think about things. Because individuals that actually have to survive and find a place to eat or find something to eat, find a place to sleep, and do all those things, they don't have time to philosophize, if that's the word, and it's not. You know what I mean? So we're very fortunate to even be able to do that. So my point is in all this, what is the challenges that we face? Is it real? Leave a comment below. If you feel like you have not registered to vote, Tennessee has made it now easy for you to become a registered voter by going online. I believe it's govotetn.com. There's a link right there, govotetn.com. Now you're able to even register online to vote. You don't even have to fill out the paper anymore. They're giving you every reason. Now, I'm not saying to vote to join this side or to join that side. What I'm saying is to register to vote so that you can hold yourself blameless. And I pray that this information comes to you in love and not me trying to have some agenda. I just want to, again, my whole thing is the truth is incontrovertible. Malice may attack it, and ignorance may deride it, but in the end, there it is. By Winston Churchill, meaning if you do what you're supposed to do based upon the process, and by you doing what you're supposed to do based upon the process, it shows that it doesn't work, then we have every truth to actually make those changes, okay? As you know, I'm running a self-sustaining business with my wife, co-owner, Malika Hilton Lead Marketing Agency. Again, we're a full-service sales and marketing firms specializing in providing services in the areas of recruiting, retention, and community relations for employers, workforce development organizations, nonprofits, business chambers, and government agencies. And so we came to Tennessee homeless 10 years ago from California. We've been able to build a self-sustaining business, but we're not quite there yet. We have some subcontractors that we work with to get the job done, but I want a full team. I want to take what we do global. I want to take what we do, which is to change and transform low-income communities, to connect diverse communities, diverse professionals, the diversity sector to the corporate and the private sector, and connect the corporate and the private sector to the diverse sector, because again, we have to work together, and there's a lot of great things happening. And so in order for those things to happen, we have to constantly make money. I thank you for going to the link below, going to our Cash app, should be www.cash.me/$E1Connect, and donating whatever you feel this message was worth. If you don't, keep us in your prayers. But leave a comment as your thoughts to the political process. So if you believe in the political process, leave a comment as to why or why not. If you do not believe in the political process, leave a comment as to why or why not. And I thank you for being professional, and as the comments grow, that we're not arguing with each other in a hateful way, but having a professional dialogue and a professional conversation as it's hot out here. Thank you for leaving that. Thank you for allowing me to have this few moments of your time. If nothing else, I wish you all the best in your personal life and career for you and your loved ones. Danavan Hilton, CEO of Hilton Lead Marketing Agency, and we're more than just marketing.